we start off this week's show with a look at an important election in Alabama. U.S. Representative Martha Roby has been forced into a July runoff for the Republican nomination for her seat. She will face off against Bobby Bright for Alabama's 2nd congressional district. Bright is a former Montgomery mayor and former Democrat who claims to be pro-life. Roby, during her time on Capitol Hill since 2011, has co-sponsored a number of pieces of pro-life legislation. Representative Martha Roby of Alabama joins us here in studio along with Marjorie Dannenfelser, president of the Susan B. Anthony List. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is going to be a great discussion. Congresswoman, I want to just delve right into your pro-life record. You were the first one to speak out on the House floor when those undercover Planned Parenthood videos from the Center for Medical Progress were first being released. Let's take a look back at part of that speech.
To those who haven't seen the video, I urge you and encourage you to watch it, but you need to be forewarned. The casual and callous way that she details how babies can be killed in such a way that their tiny hearts, lungs, and livers can be taken and sold for profit is simply horrifying. To quote Dr. Nucatola, we have been very good at getting heart, lung, and liver. So I'm not going to crush that part. I'm going to basically crush below. I'm going to crush above, and I'm going to see if I can get it all intact.
It's been nearly 3 years already, but Congresswoman, what was it like to give that impassioned speech?
Well, I mean, just even to hear those words now are very emotional. I remember I was sitting in a appropriations markup committee mark that morning and was scrolling through Twitter on my phone and came across the article and just couldn't believe what I was reading. And so I immediately texted a link to my staff and said, is this real? Is this really happening? So as soon as the committee mark was over, I immediately went to the floor to give that 1-minute speech. And as I referenced in that speech, 1 minute wasn't nearly long enough, but it did give me an opportunity. And I remember very distinctly there were other members waiting in line to give their 1 minute, and they too were filled with emotion at hearing this for the first time. So look, any opportunity to fight for the unborn, as you know, I'm unapologetically pro-life and consider it an amazing privilege to be able to be a voice in Congress for those that have no voice. But listening to those words, and I think what was so emotional about it is that I hadn't actually read the speech, that the comments that my staff had helped prepare me for. But when those words came out of my mouth about crushing babies, I just was overwhelmed with emotion because of what it is. And so I was privileged to have that opportunity that day, but knew that that was just the beginning of a long road ahead to expose what had been done, but to use my seat in Congress to ensure that these practices would stop.
And since then, you have continued to be very outspoken on your pro-life views. Congresswoman, what are some policies that are close to your heart, ones that you think really need to be prioritized?
Well, there's many. And again, I think our greatest frustration in the House of Representatives is that we've gotten a lot of these measures across the finish line in the House only to be stalled in the Senate. And the one that I've so enjoyed working with Marjorie and Susan B. Anthony List on is the pain-capable bill. And I'll just tell you, like, sitting there on the House floor listening to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle calling us extreme for taking a position that abortions should not be performed after 6 months of pregnancy when we know there is medical evidence that babies feel pain. I take the position that it's extreme to not at least be willing to do that. Does it go far enough? Absolutely not. But is it a step in the right direction? Of course. And as we saw, the pain-capable bill passed in the House only to fail in the Senate. And that continues to be a theme with these measures where we've tried to codify the Hyde Amendment and other measures that we've taken to prohibit Planned Parenthood dollars going to Planned Parenthood and other abortion providers, our greatest frustration is that we just don't have enough votes. When we have a president after 8 years of the Obama administration fighting the pro-life movement every step of the way, we now have a president who is willing to sign these pro-life measures into law, and yet we just can't get the Senate to pass. And that's really where I think all of our frustration is.
Yeah, I think so. And Congressman, you are now facing an important runoff election next month in your home state of Alabama. You're running against a former Democrat. Can you tell us more about the specifics of this race? What should our viewers know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, we were grateful for all of the support that I received during the primary. And I'm just so thankful for my husband and my children and all of Team Roby, everybody who signed up to get out the vote. And we were able to be successful in the primary. But as you know, Alabama is a runoff state. So if you don't get above that 50% threshold, you're pushed into a 6-week runoff. So here we are. And you hit the nail on the head. The gentleman that is my opponent, Bobby Bright, he was a Democrat that was elected in 2008, and his very first vote in Congress was voting for Nancy Pelosi as Speaker. And we all know all of the harmful policies that have come, that many Alabamians and Americans are still suffering under, that came out of those 2 years between 2008 and 2010. And so I think it's really important that the voters in Alabama know that I am a conservative Republican with a record that I'm proud of, that I believe reflects the conservative values and principles of the people I represent in Alabama's 2nd District. And that really is the distinction. He is a Democrat who supported Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama, and I'm a conservative Republican.
Marjorie, your group, the Susan B. Anthony List, has endorsed Representative Roby for this race. As a pro-life leader, why is this race so important?
Well, I think everything that Martha just said in her impassioned plea on the floor of the House to protect these children says everything that we need to say. Martha is front and center, the poster child for the Susan B. Anthony List and what we look for in a candidate. Certainly the intellectual arguments are vital, and her legal background helps with all that. But what you just saw in that clip can't be replaced. That passion, that heart, that love of life, especially being a mother, nothing is better than that. So we're putting all we can into making sure that Martha wins, that she comes back, that we're going to increase our numbers in the Senate so that we can do a better job in getting those bills passed over there. But we really need you, and we love you, and we're praying for you.
I appreciate that very much.
And Marjorie, the Congresswoman, did mention the Unborn Child Protection Act. What has her role been in fighting to pass this piece of important legislation?
Well, I mean, again, it's been as a beautiful spokeswoman for this cause, right in the midst of battle, where on the other side is a Nancy Pelosi who wants to have it both ways, wants to be protecting that pro-abortion policy plank at abortion at any time in the Democratic Party, and she wants to be able to pretend like it doesn't exist when it comes to places of Alabama, like Alabama. That simply cannot be. Until the Democratic Party actually changes that plank, we simply can't have people who are falling in line behind that agenda, and we need you. So come on back.
Thank you.
I know this is a race that we will continue to monitor closely. Thank you both for being here, Congresswoman Martha Roby and Marjorie Dannenfelser.
Thank you.
Thanks.